My novel, The Enthusiast. The Enthusiast is about a guy named Henry Bay who works his way across America working for a long series of enthusiast magazines covering the odd hobbies and extreme sports of our land. So for a while he works at Ice Climbing magazine, later he works at Cozy, the magazine of tea, and he makes his way around understanding America in this way. And this is one of the stories from the book. It was also a narrative magazine, and it's called Spelunk. In all my years of working at magazines, I never got $200 ahead. And you could chart my lack of progress by the cars I drove. A sidekick, an escort, a protege, a cadet, and for 6 awful months, a flurry, the most entry-level car ever offered by a Big 3 manufacturer. Flurry was a perfect name for the car because it weighed nothing, and a gust of wind would move it over a lane and a half. Mine got stolen twice, but viciously turned up a few blocks away both times. I had the flurry when I worked at Spelunk magazine in Silica, Missouri. For the first 5 weeks, I managed to duck my caving lesson, but the day came when I had to get up at 4 a.m. and put on orange coveralls, Wellington boots, rappelling gloves, and a helmet with 2 headlamps and a chin strap, all of them brand new from the manufacturers. I looked like a guy in a ballet about a mining disaster. My fellow associate editor, Jeff, picked me up at 5 in the company Willys. He was wearing the same kind of clothes I was, but his had been in caves. 20 miles out of Silica, he said, by the way, there's a rumor we're being sold to a conglomerate in California. They're downsizers. In the afternoon, we got onto a 2-lane road west of St. Louis, drove into scrub-covered hills, parked under a pin oak, and put on backpacks full of ropes and gear. It had just stopped raining, and the air smelled like metal as Jeff found the cave entrance, a 5-foot crack in a hillside half hidden by trees. The cave was prized for its tight passages, icy mudstorms, and swarming bats. We lit our carbide lamps and stepped from the muggy world into a cool hallway of rock just tall enough to stand in. Nice phreatic passage, Jeff said as we set out. It felt and smelled like walking around inside an eggplant. After half a mile, the corridor widened into a room-like chamber 20 feet across. Jeff turned in a slow arc, his headlight illuminating a bedroll, sealed food containers, aluminum dishes, a hibachi, and a milk crate full of folded clothes. There were business shirts soaking in a wash tub by a pool of water, and a pair of pants hanging from a clothesline attached to the walls with pythons. Beside the bedroll were worn paperback copies of Centennial and Shogun, and a magazine called Wet and Ready from an old heritage of enthusiast titles. A dweller, Jeff said. I wish he was here. The readers love it. Living the dream. We started back the way we'd come, and then stopped suddenly as we came out of a tight passage to see a guy pointing a gun at us. We threw our hands up yelling, "Hello, sorry, we're sorry." The guy was in his 30s, a little beefy, in twill pants, a white business shirt half soaked with sweat, a small backpack, and a caving helmet. "Who are you?" he said. "We're sorry," Jeff said. "Let's be calm. We were just..." I said, "Who are you?" "Right, sorry, I'm Jeffrey Florian, and this is Henry Bay. We're with Spelunk magazine. About caves?" "I don't think I've seen it," the guy said. I said, "We can just..." "I don't suppose you'd like to talk to us," Jeff said. "A short interview?" The guy squinted at him. "Our readers are always interested in people who actually make their home in caves." I didn't know where Jeff was getting his nerve from, but he'd been living in Silica for a few years, so maybe he was past caring. "Or we can just be on our way," he said. "It's up to you." "It's up to me?" The guy with the gun? Amazing. He lowered it, though, and thought for a minute. "You can't put my name in there, or where this is." No, Jeff said. "Total discretion." The guy thought some more, then nodded us back to the room we had found. When we got there, he put his gun and backpack on the floor, scooped water from the pool, drank it, and sat down on a rock. "Sir," Jeff said. "Larry," the guy said. "Larry, good to meet you." Jeff took a tape recorder out of his pack and held it up. "May I use this?" Larry shrugged. That's very nice of you, Jeff said, and pressed record. So, how long have you lived here? A few months, Larry said. He squirted lighter fluid on the coals in the hibachi and lit them. Have you done any mapping of these caves, Jeff said, or animal counts? No. I bet that would be real engrossing, though. So, in general then, what would you say led you to live here? Yeah, what led me here? Yeah. He stared at the fire for a minute and then turned to us. How much do you guys know about market research? We looked at each other. Not that much, I said. Yeah, well, that's what led me here. Market research. I was working at a company in St. Louis. We broke the population down into groups and found out everything about them. What they bought, what they wore, what they watched, what they drank, and how they talked. We started out with all the old classifications, like sustainers, achievers, and IMBs, and then we broke them way down. We had 80 subgroups. Dior Christians, Nobody's Homies, Live Work Zolofts. The energy just to think up the names would power a small city, but the data sets were beautiful. The ad agencies, political parties, they wanted to marry us. So I did interviews. I ran focus groups. These women would come in to talk about hair extensions and diet shakes. He trailed off, studying the fire's shadows on the cave wall. It's harder to hit on women now than it's ever been before, he said finally. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it is. You almost have to be from the same little tribe they are, and like I say, there's 80 of them. You can have a conversation, but you know nothing's going to happen, because she's a guileless in Prada, and you're a keg with legs. The flames had died down and the coals were glowing. Larry opened a food canister and put some lumps of raw meat on the grill. But I knew these women, he said, from the research. I knew how to talk to them. I knew their psychographics. I knew which commercials made them messed up. I knew where they lived, and I knew where their kids went to school. He plucked a slice of meat off the grill, waved it around to cool it, and ate. The first time was at the mall, naturally. My wife is shopping, and I wander off, and I see this kiosk girl. I see that little hand working the jewelry pliers, and the tank top, and the 4 ponytails. He looked at Jeff. Tell me you never wanted kiosk. But you didn't attempt it, did you? I look at her, and I think, yeah, you're an emulator, aren't you? I can see your apartment from here. It's bad, but it's near water. Your desk calendar's got angels on it. You splurge on underwear. You listen to K101 regardless of what city you live in. And you're taking a class, screenwriting, songwriting, greeting card writing. And you've got half a dozen start your own business ideas, but people are unfair. They screw over your dreams, but you don't quit. You're upward aspiring. Guess what I'm aspiring up? Emulator sex. It's like a movie where they're overacting, but that's what's great about it. The curtains are blowing in and out, and they're screaming, and afterwards she goes to get beers, and she goes, "You stay right there, you." He pressed a playful finger covered with charred fat to an invisible nose. Just poignant, because you both know you're going to have to talk her down at some point. Now, I had never done anything like this. My wife was only my third sex partner. But I had the keys now. I'd see a tighty-whitey in a sweater set, and I'd be like, guess who's getting into that gated community? He saw Jeff look down. Am I offending you? Is this a little coarse? I'm sorry. I live in a cave, okay? Wolves are raised by me. Right, no, I got kiosk, I got art house, I got sales conference. They were stashing the kid at Phonics. They were flying in an hour early and meeting me at the embassy suites. The clothes were sailing off. So many opening nights, and it's only opening night once, right? And you do not get jaded. I don't know who propounded that shit. My heart was getting louder every time. So of course I fucked it up. I just had to have a sustainer. That's the group where they're just getting by. Crisis to crisis, heavy users of paycheck advance stores. This was some seriously forbidden-ass fruit. Sustainer sex is a crisis all in itself. You feel like you're an asthma inhaler. Week 5, she comes to the house. We were having people over. Some peaked in colleges my wife Kelly peaked in college with. But that was no barrier to entry. Dolores, the sustainer, comes in sobbing. She confessed to her husband, and she prayed that Kelly could forgive her someday, although she'd never forgive herself, and so on. So forget the marriage. Well, I had zero money. I'd been out here. I'd seen this cave. Jeff said, "So you lost your job for using the information?" "No, I still work there, but every dime goes to her. And I kind of drained out our savings. There were some trucks." "I'm sorry, trucks?" "Yeah, I bought a few women pickup trucks to get things going." "Oh," Jeff paused. I thought it was just by talking to them." "Wake up, cave boy," Larry said. "You'll be late for school. The bus is down by the Miller's house already." "Right," Jeff said. "It's knowing who would want a truck." "Of course," Jeff said. "I don't suppose you've seen any degenerate-eyed fish down here. Our readers are crazy about them." Larry pointed into the passage beyond the room. "About a quarter mile," he said. "Ugly bastards." Jeff got his camera out and said he'd be back. When he was out of earshot, Larry said to me, "What's the deal with you and him?" "How do you mean?" I said. "Who's got the better title?" "Neither. We're both associate editor." "Yeah, but he gets to ask the questions. Who's going to move up? Who's going out the door in a cutback? You're not thinking about that, are you?" "He is." "I don't think there's anything like that going on." "I know you don't. I'm about 3 questions away from knowing your subgroup. If I had to guess right now, I would say you're an oil case." "What's that?" "An oil case is someone who owns a car that causes him to buy motor oil by the case. Everything else flows from that. The oil case does not go for what he wants. The oil case thinks things will work out on their own, and while they don't, the oil case crams our nation's landfills with empty cans of 40 weight. When we got back to Silica, we found out Jeff was right. Spelunk had been bought by the company in California. Larry was right too. Jeff stayed and I was laid off. I made a day of phone calls and finally found an opening at Crochet Life magazine in Wellfleet, Illinois. They offered me $10 a week, less than I'd been making, and said I should be there the next day if I wanted it. I drove all night long to make it, stopping once for gas and twice for oil. Thank you.